You ever stepped on a crunchy leaf and thought that was a loud sound? Let me tell you about a sound that makes that seem like a whisper. A sound so raw and deep it didn't just hit your ears. It shook your bones. It happened in a logging town. A Tuesday. They were bringing down this huge old pine tree. The chainsaw bit into the trunk, and the world screamed. A wailing vibration so immense it knocked people to their knees. Came from the tree. It resonated through the ground, through the air, through you. When it finally stopped a minute later, the silence that followed, that was almost worse. A deep, ringing, hollow silence. That was the day the world found its voice. The first week, absolute pandemonium. You gotta picture it. Every deliberate act of destruction answered. Mow a lawn? 1,000 tiny, piercing shrieks. Chop down a tree for a new housing development? An hour-long siren of agony that cleared the entire neighborhood. It wasn't just upsetting, it was physically dangerous. The sound pressure could burst eardrums, cause migraines, nosebleeds, logging, commercial farming, construction. It all just ended overnight. The grocery stores, they were emptied in about 3 days, because harvesting a field of corn, that sounded like a war zone. The modern world, the one built on cutting and clearing, it just shut down. The noise was a stop sign, a primal, undeniable no. By the first month, we were scrambling in this new, terrifyingly noisy reality. Our cities started to look fuzzy, green, unkempt. Parks became jungles because maintaining them was sonic torture. The biggest threat we faced wasn't immediate starvation, though let me be clear, the first few years, we lost a lot of people to hunger and the chaos. We're still learning how to feed billions without causing a racket. No, the real danger split into two kinds of people. The ones who broke under the guilt. They'd just sit, listening to the wind in the leaves, afraid to move, slowly wasting away on whatever fell at their feet. And then the other kind, the ones who armored up in layers of homemade soundproofing, mattresses, foam, whatever, and went out with axes. Not for resources, just to make the world scream, to feel in control again. They were the new predators. Survival meant relearning everything. We became master foragers. Fruits, nuts, mushrooms, berries. If it could be gently picked or gathered, it was food. We discovered, almost by accident, that the plants, they only screamed from intentional harm. A storm could rip a branch clean off and it was silent. A rabbit could nibble a plant to the ground, not a peep. But the moment a human meant to cause damage, that's when the wail began. That distinction, it was the most chilling clue. We never fully understood why. But that mystery, that line drawn in the sand of consciousness, was more haunting than the scream itself. The focus turned to sound management. Not making it, but killing it. Quiet became the most valuable resource on Earth. The first stable communities formed around silence farms. Clusters of buildings wrapped in advanced sonic dampeners, creating bubbles of calm you could actually think in. It was in these quiet zones that we started to rebuild something resembling society, but it was fragile and it was always listening. A year in, the new rules were etched in stone, or rather, in our nerves. We moved with a new kind of care. We traveled on old stone paths and river routes to avoid crushing new growth. Our homes, when we built them, were grown from guided vines and living wood, a slow, patient partnership. We stopped being rulers. We became gardeners, tentative, apologetic ones. There was this ritual you'd see. Someone reaching for a low apple, their hand hovering, then gently, so gently, cupping the fruit before twisting it free. It looked like a prayer. In a way, it was. 10 years later, look around. It's a stunning, overgrown, noisy, beautiful planet. The air tastes different, clean, Our cities are green monuments to negotiated peace. We live within the forest, not instead of it. We aren't at the top of any chain. We're in the middle of a web, a sensitive, singing web. And we finally learned that if you pluck the wrong thread, the whole thing screams back. So what did we really learn? The scream didn't teach us about the planet's pain. We could have guessed that. It taught us that we were the only thing the planet needed protection from. It held up a mirror and forced us to look at our own reflection as the monster in the garden. Now, in this world where every action has a sound, a consequence you can't ignore, it makes you think, really think. So I'll leave you with this. In that world, you're standing in your own backyard. The grass is waist-high, the bushes are swallowing the fence. You can't mow it. You can barely walk through it without causing a scene. What's the very first thing you learn to do? Tell me down below.